Greetings, Guzzlers. It is still Friday night, and if you listen closely, you can hear the rain coming down, And if it starts to rain in, thunder rumbles loud. Johnny's fallen up in heaven and landed on a cloud. His tears are falling as he lands, 'cause he knows that when you die in the big pub way up in the sky, you never, ever, 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 ever drink 'em dry. Aside from that, I'm going to try something new, which promises to be, to make for a long video. So if you don't want long videos, kindly log off now. The rest of you, I am going to entertain you with a book from my youth. The Dungeon of Dread. This is a choose-your-own-adventure book. It's a fantasy story where you learn to watch the water that is not water and beware the basilisk. Anyhow, but before we get started, I reckon I should wet my whistle and prepare things. Tonight's beer for this reading is something I've featured before. This is Dragon's Milk, Tales of Gold. 11% ABV for those keeping track at home. Now, a Choose Your Own Adventure book is a lovely book. It's really multiple books in one. Because you, the reader, play the role of the main character. In this case, Carrick, a human fighter. Excuse me. I might have had a beer or two beforehand. Anyhow, and as the book proceeds, instead of going page by page by page, like a normal book, you reach choices such as, do you hide from the goblin or do you attack him? And then it gives you a page number based on your choice. That said, you follow it through and then maybe you win through to the end. And in Carrick's case, it's defeating the Dread Wizard Cowman and winning his treasure. But more often than not, you die in a terrible fashion. So let's find out how we fare tonight in Rose Estes' Dungeon of Dread. Let me find the start page. We've got a great cover piece here. I love that art. I love that artist. All right. Welcome to a journey into the world of fantasy. This adventure into the Dungeon of Dread is a Dungeons & Dragons solo adventure. You will find a complete adventure between the covers of this book, with many possible courses of action. Some choices are simple, some are sensible, some are foolhardy, and some are dangerous. You must make all the decisions. Remember, your choice determines the outcome of your adventure. In this book, you play the part of a human fighter. As an adult, you stand 5'9" and weigh about 150 pounds. You are smart and have survived many adventures using little more than your wits. You are well schooled in the use of weapons and are a powerful opponent. You carry a sword and dagger and wear a long-sleeved green tunic over leather breeches. Fine leather boots guard your feet. A long green hunter's cloak protects you from the cold. You carry flasks of oil, a tinderbox, a length of rope, and other gear in a leather pouch tied to your belt. And food and water in a sack slung, and not a slack sung. In a sack slung over your shoulder. Good luck and good adventuring. You have stopped for the night in a strange forest, tired after a long day's walk. The area seems eerie and strange. There is no moonlight, so the shadows are very black. The air is still and heavy. Even the usual night noises of small birds and animals are missing. Ordinarily, you would have pressed on through the dark wood to the nearest town, but this night, you are too tired to take another step. Wrapping your cloak firmly about yourself, you lie down upon a soft bed of moss with your sword close at hand. You are soon fast asleep. You dream that summer breezes ruffle your clothes. A strong breeze tugs at your cloak. You slowly awaken. Breeze? There's no breeze. The night is calm. Your reflexes scream in alarm and you awaken. Eyes snapping open. You see a 3-foot-tall halfling, probably a thief, quietly searching your clothes. In one smooth, swift movement, you jump to your feet and grab the unlucky halfling by the scruff of his neck. The halfling's eyes shine in the moonlight, and his fear is easy to see. Well, halfling, can you give me one reason why I shouldn't feed you to the crows? Oh, please don't do that, whines the halfling. I'm just a poor hungry halfling named Loris. I'm no danger to anyone. Why, I just now escaped a terrible fate. If you spare me and feed me, I'll tell you where to find all the treasure in the world. You hesitate, then lower him to the ground, saying, I have no need for all the world's riches. But what you say sparks my interest. I will spare your life and feed you if your story interests me enough to pay for my lost sleep. But I warn you, if your tale does not, I will feed you to the crows. So carefully watching the halfling, you gather dry wood from beneath the trees to start a fire. Soon you and a halfling share its welcome warmth. Its bright light holds back the shadows of the night. You brew mugs of strong tea as the halfling falls ravenously on a mutton leg and a round of cheese. He eats as though it has been years since he last saw food. Halfling, you spoke of treasure and adventure, you urge, trying not to show your curiosity. Beer break. Loris wipes his mug with a grimy finger, searching for any sugar his tongue might have missed. All the while, his large brown eyes flicker about, calculating his chances for escape. He studies the strong grace of your movements, your mirror-bright shield glinting in the firelight, and your sword hanging with easy reach, its hilt polished from use. Wiping his mouth with the back of his hand, the halfling sighs and stares into the flickering fire. Aye, 'tis true. 'Tis a marvelous tale, and truthful too. But there are hardly any who will believe it when I get back to my home. Well, try me. I'm always ready for a good tale, and you still owe me for dinner and your life. I'll tell you, says the halfling, fixing you with a shrewd look. But you may wish you had never asked. Settling back against a tree stump, a faraway look comes into his eyes, and the halfling begins his tale. I've lived around these parts all my life, and a right pleasant place it was until the magic user showed up. Kalman, he calls himself. No one knows who he is or where he came from. One day he wasn't here, and then the next he was. Things soon began to change for the worse. People grew poor and sickly, crops withered, and livestock weakened and died. And throughout our troubles, the magic user grew rich and powerful. All right. Then we got some art there for you. That would be Loris and Carrick, you, the human fighter. At last, people had their fill. Gathering their courage, they came upon Kalman in the middle of the night, burned his house down, and drove him from town. He fled to these woods and claimed them as his own. We townsfolk stay far from the woods, but travelers who choose not to listen to our warnings enter the woods and are never seen again. I was always too smart for my own good, sighs the halfling. One day I decided I would learn the secret of the woods and the missing travelers and perhaps figure out how to kill the wizard. If I could do that, I could return to the village as a hero. So one morning, without even a goodbye to me missus, I slipped into the woods. I explored every inch of the evil woods and found nothing. Finally, I came to a mountain just outside the forest. Excuse me. A bit too much beer, perhaps. Finally, I came to a mountain just outside the forest. I was cold and tired, so I crawled up on a ledge of a rock to rest. I was going to sit for just a moment and then go home. I must have fallen asleep, for the next thing I knew, I woke up to find Kalman standing over me. So you wanted to find me, halfling, he said. Well, now you have, and I wager you'll get more than you bargained for. With a wave of his hand, he put a spell on me so I couldn't move and slung me over his shoulder like a trussed-up rabbit. Then we slipped through an opening in the side of the mountain. I cannot and will not tell you of all the frightening things I saw. I don't even want to think of them, shudders the halfling. He carried me to the very center of the mountain, maybe the center of the world for all I know. And there I saw all the treasure in the world. You wanted to rob me, said Kalman. So look upon my treasure. You will always know just how much you have lost. Those who seek danger foolishly always find it. Those who know how to handle... Who's speaking this? Hold on, I gotta get my voice right. It's Kalman speaking. Those who know how to handle both danger and wealth are few and far between. You are lucky. I feel generous. I shall let you go and not even change you into a newt, as you deserve. When you return to your home, none will believe you. Your friends will think that you've been drinking fermented corn juice in the woods and have made this story up to cover your absence. They will laugh at you. Only you will know why they've been held and lost. Now, be gone! And with that, black smoke came out of his fingertips. When it cleared, I found myself in these dark woods alone and hungry. Loris stares into the fire for a long time without speaking. Finally, he rouses himself and says with a shaky laugh, You can see now, I'm just a poor halfling, of no harm or help to anyone. This intro runs for a really long time. You feel sorry for the forlorn little fellow and are curious about how the evil wizard and his fabulous treasure. Strangely enough, you do believe the tale. Even though the little man is clad in a grimy patched cloak and has one toe peeking through his tattered leather boots, his eyes hold a stubborn look that says, I'm not a quitter. Life has used this halfling hard, yet he has courage. If he were given encouragement and a fair chance, he might prove a worthy companion. Loris, you say gently, could you find that opening in the mountain again? The halfling stares at you for a moment before he answers. Surely I could, but it would mean your death. Kalman would not allow you to survive as he did me. I was a moment's amusement, but you would be a serious threat. Anyway, the monsters would get you first. They're scary. I don't remember them clearly, but I remember enough to give me nightmares for the rest of my life. You're crazy to even think about going in there. You couldn't get me back. You couldn't get me to go back in there for 1,000,000 zillion gold pieces. You fold your arms and stare at the halfling, tapping your fingers against your shoulder. Loris shakes his head and says, I see I have nothing I will say will persuade you. As the wizard said, those who search for danger will find it. Who can tell? You might even succeed where I failed. I will take you to the rock. At least it will prove I'm telling the truth. Gathering your few possessions, you quickly break camp and follow the halfling into the dark woods. The night is dark. Without the halfling's knowledge of the way, you would be hopelessly lost. Trees loom out of the darkness. Brambles clutch at your legs and sharp stones cut into the soles of your boots. At last, the mountain rises before you, silhouetted against the night. The halfling searches for a while, then cries, "Aha! Here it is!" A large dark crack looms in the mountain before you. You turn to the halfling, almost expecting him to have disappeared. But he's remained faithfully by your side, instead of scurrying off into the night as soon as you found the opening. "Halfling, what will happen to you if you return to your village?" you ask. Loris laughs a bitter laugh. "If I tell the truth, me missus will scold me. She's a hard woman. If I don't tell the truth, she'll still yell at me for disappearing and not talk to me. Although that might be a blessing. I will just go back to being little Loris, the baker's helper." "Loris," you say, "it took great heart and courage to try such a dangerous task. Would you consider me on a second adventure? Kalman will never expect you to return, and with your assistance we may defeat this evil wizard. If we succeed, you will return home a hero. Thereafter, you would be known as Loris the Brave." The halfling looks down at the ground, his shoulders sagging. "I couldn't do it," he whispers. "I'm not a fighter. Pick somebody who won't let you down." "I don't want someone else. I need you, and I want you. You can do it if you believe in yourself." After a long pause, the halfling looks up into your eyes and pulls at his beard. Do you really need my help? Do you really think I could do it? I'll be honest, I'm scared. Much of what I saw seems like a nightmare to me, all scary and creepy and blurry. But I would like to be Loris the Brave. A real adventure," he muses. "One that might actually succeed. Oh, you're strong and handy with your weapons. I bet you're tricky, too. More of a challenge for that wizard than I was. But I've been there. Maybe I could help. Maybe I could do it. What do I have to lose? Me missus scolds me and others laugh at my size. There's not much to lose and lots to gain." His voice fades as he thinks to himself. Finally, he shouts, "Yes, I will do it. I'm your man, halfling, if you want me." "Can you handle a weapon?" you ask. I've had little call to use one as a baker's helper, but I know the basics every child learns," replies the halfling. But I'm loyal and I'm very strong." "Well spoken, Loris. I have met giants who bore the hearts of mice. People should never judge a man by his size. These things that matter, truth, loyalty, courage, and honor, will never be found on any yardstick." Excuse me. The halfling smiles up at you, his round eyes rimmed with bright tears. Come, no time for tears. Now then, I am called Carrick. Clasp my hand and let us swear loyalty to each other and to our mission." The halfling slides a small, leathery hand into yours, and you soon swear the oath. "Well," you say, "there's no reason to stay. Let the adventure begin." You look at the stars and breathe deeply of the clean, crisp air. Then with your hand wrapped firmly around the hilt of your sword, you step into the opening. Inside, all is quiet. It appears a simple cave. Even though the halfling's tale sounded true, you question it for just a moment. I feel the need for a prop. Hold that thought. Your surprise suggests you too, or perhaps you don't, keep a sword near your storytelling station. As your eyes grow accustomed to the darkness, you see a skeleton leaning against the wall in one corner. Staring at the opposite wall, a small shield lies at its side. Why, with a little polishing, it might shine as brightly as your own. You pick the shield up and give it to Loris, also handing him your dagger. The halfling takes the weapon and shield, holding the dagger gingerly with his fingertips. It's not going to bite you, you say. Hold it firmly. Be ready. Don't strike until you're certain of your target, and once you begin, do not falter. That's pretty good advice. Once you begin, do not falter, folks. I'll try to do my best, Loris says, putting the dagger in his belt. I'm scared, but I won't let you down. He begins polishing the shield, and you follow the skeleton's gaze and see a message scrawled in red on the wall of the cave. Watch the water that is not water, and beware the basilisk. The rest of the cave is empty, except for a pile of leaves and twigs in the west corner, and a hole in the wall under the message. Well, Loris, where do we go from here, you ask. I do not know, the halfling replies. I don't remember any trails, just some of the things I saw. So finally, after 21 minutes, we get some choices. If we want to investigate the hole in the wall, or if we wish to check the pile of leaves. Well, look, folks, I spent a lot of time doing yard work. I know what gets raked up and what doesn't. I'm going to turn to page 15 and check the pile of leaves. The pile looks like a harmless clump of leaves and twigs, perhaps the nest of an animal. However, just to be sure, you place one foot into the middle of the pile, intending to spread the debris out on the floor of your cave. Your foot finds no solid footing, and your arms waving wildly, you lose your balance. Whoosh! You're falling. You slide rapidly down a chute carved from solid rock. The sides are as smooth as glass. You are moving much too fast to stop yourself. You fly out the chute and land on your back. The fall knocks the breath out of you. You are attempting to catch your breath when, thud! Ugh! Another figure flies through the air and lands on the floor beside you. Oh, groans Loris. I was so scared when you disappeared like that. I thought maybe you were eaten by a monster. No, not a monster, just a hole. Are you all right? Any bones broken? No, he moans. I'm not hurt. As the two of you catch your breath, you notice you're in a corridor carved from solid rock. A single torch burns in a bracket on the wall, and you can see that a tunnel branches off to your left. Ahead of you, you hear footsteps approaching. A large, ugly man-thing walks into your sight carrying a torch. The creature has an ugly snout and long, sharp teeth. It's an orc! It will discover you at any moment. All right, more choices. If we choose to step aside into a side tunnel without being discovered, or we can stand and fight the orc. Well, I gotta tell you, I am full of liquid courage this evening. So I'm thinking that we're gonna turn to page 20 and stand and fight an orc. I'm on video. Let's head for that side corridor. Let's head for that side corridor, urges the halfling. Loris, there isn't time, you say. We wouldn't make it. We have to fight. As the orc approaches, you see that it carries a sword and a wooden shield. You unhook your cloak quietly. As you do, Loris steps into the orc's sight. The beast rushes after him immediately. Holding your cloak by an edge, you whip it around your head and fling it at the menacing orc. The cloak flies through the air like a giant bat and wraps itself around the orc's head. The orc is taken by surprise. While it struggles to free itself from the cloak, you and the halfling rush forward and swiftly attack the foul monster with your blades. You remove your cloak from the dead beast, and Loris says shakily, I did it, Carrick, just like you said I could, but I feel awful. I've never killed before. Loris, it's an orc. Do you realize that it was its life or ours? Loris shudders. I reckon you're right. It's just that I have a queasy stomach. I can't even eat liver. Taking a deep breath, the halfling helps you drag the orc over to the side of the corridor. Satisfied that you won your first encounter, the two of you continue down the corridor. It bends to the right. Please turn to page 23. Hold that thought. This will be fun.
I'm sorry for earlier interruption. Goodbye. Make it close up to Minecraft.
The corridor is long and narrow, and another corridor joins it from the right. A torch flickers at the entrance to a room where the two corridors join. Approaching carefully, you peer around the edge of the door and are startled by what you see. You see a large baboon. It sits on an oaken wine barrel, wearing a blue cloak, leather breeches, and a frayed leather sword sheath. The sheath holds a rusty sword. The baboon is drinking deeply from a mug, and you are truly puzzled. For you have never known baboons to live underground, much less wear clothing and drink wine. Furthermore, the baboon stares glumly into its mug and seems depressed. A depressed baboon? How very odd. What's this, Loris? You ask. I don't know, the halfling replies. I've never seen anything like it. All right, choices. Do we want to go handle the baboon? And by that I mean visit with. Or do we want to ignore the baboon and keep on trucking? I'm a big fan of baboons, especially baboons that wear clothes and such. Anyhow, and here is the art of said baboon, sad, drunken, depressed baboon, in a blue cloak with a rusty sword. Turn to page 54. I don't like the looks of that monkey, mutters Loris. Neither do I, you reply. But we can't leave without knowing what this means. Holding your sword before you. Holding your sword before you. You enter the room. Loris sneaks in behind you. The baboon sees you and whimpers into its wine. It drinks the contents of the cup in one large gulp and stares at you sadly, making peculiar noises and gestures. You realize it's trying to talk to you. Can you understand him, Loris? I can't make out what he's saying. Nope, it's all nonsense to me, says the halfling. Tears pour down its cheeks as the baboon realizes you do not understand. Heaving a great sigh, it leaps off the barrel and draws yet another full cup and chugs it in one gulp. The baboon drops the cup and stares at the ground for a long moment. Then, without warning, the creature pulls its rusty sword and rushes towards you. Back up, Loris, you say. I don't want to fight this fellow. But the baboon will not let you leave the room. It lurches about, swinging its rusty sword wildly and attacking clumsily, but with great strength. Realizing you could be killed by this strange beast, you reluctantly raise your weapon. I don't think it's trying to win, you pant as you block a wild thrust. Couldn't prove it by me, cries Loris, frantically hiding behind you. Even though you do not fight hard and merely try to protect yourself, the baboon throws itself on your sword and falls dying at your feet. You stare down at the unfortunate beast, saddened by the event. The creature puts its hairy arm around your neck and pulls your head close to its mouth. It mumbles strange sounds, but you cannot understand them. And then suddenly, a white cloud appears over the baboon's body. You wave it away with your sword and find a plump merchant with a large red nose lying on the ground. The baboon is gone. The merchant whispers, "I thank you for the service. My good wife always said I was ugly as an ape when I was in my cups. I guess she was right." And the cloud reappears, and when you fan it away again, only the rusty sword and the cup are left lying on the ground. There is no trace of the baboon. You quickly leave the room and hurry down the corridor on the other side of the room. You pass a corridor on your left. As you peer into it, you see a strange green reflection. The corridor is empty. It runs straight for over 100 paces and then divides. Excuse me. One path to the right, one to the left. While you and Loris are trying to decide which way to go, a hobgoblin comes down the right-hand corridor. Its yellow eyes shift from side to side, and it sees you and lets forth a tremendous roar, then starts running towards you. All 6.5 feet of it is intent on tearing you and Loris from limb to limb. What do? Stand and fight or run away? Well, we're fighters, folks, so we'll turn to page 69 and we will stand and fight. We will wet our whistles, because reading is thirsty work. Since you have already been seen, it won't do any good to run. You gesture for Loris to stay out of the way. Thinking fast, you remember they hate elves more than anyone else. You casually lean against the wall and call out, "Ha! I'm not afraid of you. I'm well armed and my band of elves is coming up behind you. So prepare to meet your doom." The hobgoblin stops. Its rage is easy to see. It moves a few paces towards you, then a few steps back toward the imagined elves. "Come on and fight me. I'm an easier target. The elves will get you if you stand there much longer." The hobgoblin's face grows ugly with rage. Its lips draw back in a snarl to show yellow fangs, and a hideous growl rolls out of its throat. Finally, the hobgoblin turns and rushes off towards the imaginary elves. "Quick, Loris, we don't have long. It'll discover the trick soon." A few feet down the corridor the hobgoblin ran down, another corridor opens on your left. So you and Loris run down that corridor. Turn to page 62. As you enter the corridor, you hear the sound of grinding stone and see some dust falling from the ceiling. "Something's wrong," you whisper to the halfling. "Let's get out of here." You turn around and start retracing your footsteps. However, before you have gone 2 paces, a tremendous roar knocks you off your feet and the passage before you collapses. When the dust settles, you see the corridor is completely blocked with large boulders, heavy timbers, and dirt. "It's impossible," you say. We'll never get out of here without tools. We can only go forward." Reluctantly, the two of you stagger to your feet, turn around, and walk down the corridor, alert for danger at every step. The corridor ends in a room. A feeling of menace hangs heavy in the air. But what you see seems harmless enough. The room is approximately 20 feet square and dimly lit. The ceilings and walls are rough, with stalactites hanging from the ceiling. The floor is smooth. A stone well, about 3 feet tall, stands in the middle of the room. The well is covered with mysterious carvings of ugly faces. Sword in hand, you approach the well carefully. "Don't do that! Get away!" screams the halfling. You stare at the halfling in shock. There's something terrible in there," Loris says, trembling. "Oh, but I can't remember it clearly. Oh, Coleman picked me up by my feet and dangled me over the pool. He thought it was funny. I didn't think it was funny." "What kind of monster is it?" you ask. "I don't know. I never saw anything like it before." Sneaking carefully up to the well, you glance in quickly and discover it contains only a shallow pool of water. All of your instincts, though, scream, "Danger!" in all capital letters. Everything in you says, "Leave now!" in quotes. But you do not. You cannot go back the way you've come, and you've come too far to let mysterious carvings around a pool of water frighten you. You look in again and see that the water is crystal clear. You see a bright gold key in the bottom of the pool. The tip of the key is fashioned like a cross with diamonds on each end. Colored gems decorate each corner. Well, the key must be valuable and open the lock of something of great importance. "Look, Loris, look," you call. But the halfling buries his head in his hands and does not respond. If the key is important, why would it be left lying around in a pool of harmless water? Perhaps the water is not harmless. You could reach in and see what happens, but if a monster does lurk in there, as Loris believes, that would not be a good idea. Looking around the room, you see several things you did not notice at first. Item 1, there are 2 doorways, one to your left, one to your right. Both are dark, and you cannot see beyond them. Bones lie scattered on the floor. "Loris, bring me one of those big bones." The halfling slowly drags a 3-foot long bone to you. As an aside, if it's a humerus, or a femur, or a rib, it comes from a really, really, really big critter. Just want to point that out. Picking the bone up, you probe the bottom of the pool gingerly, trying to snag the key. Suddenly, the bone is wrenched from your hand with great violence. The water erupts out of the pool, and a watery, cobra-like head rises out of the pool. It surges at you with its mouth open. You jump back quickly. Once you are out of its striking range, the watery creature sinks back into the pool. See, I told you! "But no, you wouldn't believe me," cries the halfling. "Ooh, you've got to get out of here before it eats us." "Calm down," you say. "It can't get us as long as we stay here. It's a water weird." A snake made out of water. "It can't leave the pool. I've heard about them mentioned in old tales, but honestly, I never thought they were real." "Well, it looks real enough to me," says the halfling, his teeth chattering. Here, we got some art. Look at that. There's a water weird bursting out of the well. Look, folks, I know the artist's name. It's not addressed at the front of the book, and I'm trying to remember, and at some point I will call it out, because I love all that artist's work. It's great stuff. You're silent as you try to remember all you have heard about water weirds. You know they attack any living thing. You know it drags any creature it strikes into the pool to drown. You also know that weapons rarely hurt the creature. So, if you decide not to fight this dreadful monster, you may choose to leave the key, the monster in the room. So what do we do? Here we got 3 options. We can leave to the left because there's a breeze blowing from that direction. Or we can leave to the right. Nothing specific there. Or we can stay and try to somehow get the key. So what do we want to do? I like keys. Let's go for the key. Keys mean doors. Doors mean things that you shouldn't be getting into. Let's turn to page 77 for the key. You lean against the far wall and try to figure out what to do next. Should we try to leave? Asks the halfling. Calm down, Loris. Let's think for a minute. This key is of great value, otherwise it wouldn't be so well protected. There must be some way of retrieving it. It might be possible to distract the creature. You creep up to the pool carrying a large rock and a rib bone with you. Peering over the edge, you see the key lying in the calm pool, and the halfling covers his eyes. I can't look, he says. Tell me what happens. You heave the rock into the opposite side of the pool, and the water weird lashes out, flailing the water into a furious froth. You quickly plunge the curved bone into the water and drag it across the bottom of the pool, trying to catch the key. Excuse me. As you drag the bone across the pool, you feel a powerful jerk, and the water weird pulls it from your grasp. The water weird sways above the surface of the pool, hissing, and finally it submerges. The halfling peers through the slits in his fingers. Are you alive? He asks. Of course I am, you snap. You're shaken, but unhurt. You're puzzled because the bone touched a whole lot of nothing in the pool. How can you see a key that is not there? If the key is not there, where is it? You search the rough ceiling and you see a glimmer. Moving to the far corner of the room, you see a gleam of gold and a flash of green. But you can't be sure that what you see is the key. Moving to the middle of the room, you can at last see that the mysterious key is attached to the ceiling by 2 thin wires. I know where it is, you say, but how do I get it? An idea forms in your mind. Perhaps you can use your sword to pry the key from the ceiling, but you must catch it before it falls in the pool, or it'll be lost forever. Loris, come here. I need help. The halfling steps forward, trembling but ready. Get ready to catch the key, you say. You take off your cloak and hold it in your left hand. You hold your sword in the other, and with a swift movement, you flip your cape over the surface of the well and sweep your sword upwards. Snap! You pry the key from the ceiling. It falls and lands on the cloak. Quickly, you flick your sword forward and, catching the broad surface of the key, flip it away from the pool. It tumbles through the air, and Loris leaps forward to catch it. He opens his hands, and there you see the key. The water weird hisses in frustration and snaps at your cloak. You jerk your cloak from the water weird's grasp and step back. Loris proudly hands you the key to you, and you study its incredible beauty. It lies heavy in your hand, sparkling with gold and jewels. You study the key for several minutes longer, then slip it into your pouch and tighten the strings. Glancing at the well one last time, you turn to continue your adventure. A cool breeze blows from the left, and you can see that corridor runs uphill. You cannot see or hear anything in the right-hand corridor. All right, folks. In honor of the storm that's blowing in and out outside, we're going to go left. We're going to turn to page 86 and follow the breeze. Here we go. No, it's 85. 86. As you travel down this corridor away from the water weird, you see that another passage opens to the left. It's dimly lit, but you see nothing. Let's stay out of that corridor for now, you say. As you continue down the corridor, you see stone faces carved in the side of the corridor. The faces have ugly, snarling features. Gosh, Carrick, Laura says. Look at those ugly faces. As you proceed, the carvings become larger. The corridor is now flanked by man-sized stone monsters with such hideous expressions you are almost too terrified to walk past them. They're only stone, Loris, you say with more courage than you feel. The two of you creep along under the gaze of the stone monsters. A large torch-lit room opens before you. Large wooden beams rise on both sides of the doorway, and you notice the corridor continues on the other side of the room. As you examine the room, you feel as though 1,000 eyes are watching you. Before you stands the most horrible collection of statues you have ever seen. Excuse me. Stone monsters only a madman could imagine leer down at you from their pedestals. You stand in the doorway, too frightened to continue. It is well that you do, for one of the statues moves. It is a gargoyle. It's the size of a man, but is the color of stone. Bat-like wings rise from its back, and it has knife-sharp hooks on its elbows and knees. A long spiral horn protrudes from its forehead. The gargoyle's hands end in long, sharp claws, and it has a long, whip-like tail. The halfling presses to your side and raises his small shield to hide behind. You know gargoyles are ferocious predators that attack anything and love to torture their prey. You also know that sometimes they serve an evil master, so it's quite possible that the gargoyle is Kalman's servant. Perhaps a wizard is near. All right, more choices. Do we want to stand and fight? Or do we want to run away? All right. Metagaming. Gargoyles can only be hit by magical weapons. Nothing we've seen suggests that we've got a magical weapon going on here. So we're going to cut and run. We're going to turn back to page 81 and hie ourselves down that left-hand corridor that Carrick earlier said, we'll ignore this. This corridor runs straight and smooth for several hundred paces. After a time, torches line the walls. Your way is well lit. The corridor slopes upwards, twisting and turning upon itself. And at last, you stand before a large boulder. The corridor ends here. There's nowhere else to go. You're puzzled. Searching the face of the boulder, you discover a hidden handle and pull it. You pull it. The entire boulder swings slowly towards you. You step aside in amazement. The boulder swings completely open and fresh air rushes into the corridor. Looking around the edge of the opening, you see that it is very dark beyond. You step through the opening and the immense boulder closes behind you. And there's no sign of a door. Carrick, cries Loris. We're outside. The blackness is only night. Cool, fresh air blows about you. You smell pine trees and green growing things. You're outside and you're safe. But you have come away with little or no treasure to make it worth your while considering the dangers you faced. Perhaps you can find the opening in the rock and try again another day. As the two of you pick your way down the side of the mountain, a deep, mocking laughter echoes down the mountainside. The halfling suddenly turns back toward the mountain and raises a clenched fist, shouting, Someday, Kalman, Carrick and I, Loris the Brave, will return to your land for another battle. Next time the outcome will be different. You and Loris turn down the mountain and start the long journey back to Loris's village. The end. Now, normally, I would flip back to explore what happens if I fight the gargoyle. Does the story end well, or at least continue? Do we get killed? Because in the grand scheme of things, escaping with our lives is really not that satisfying. So whatever. But folks, that was fun. I enjoyed telling tales with my Tales of Gold, Dragon's Milk, The Dungeon of Dread. Perhaps another day, if this is popular, I will do other books. I have several of them. I had several more for youth, but they went away as things from our youth often do. So before the hour is up, I will say cheers!